Good morning, everyone.
We're starting today's video at the Oregon Dunes Overlook, and this beautiful Oregon treasure is located between Florence, Oregon and Gardner, Oregon, near Taconich Lake.
I've done a little research. Professor Kurt Peterson at Portland State University was involved in a Sea Grant project in 2007
that did some age dating
based in the Oregon Dunes. One of the most important discoveries that they made were that the Oregon Dunes are not related to the marine sediments below them. The sand in the dunes are not. The sand drifted northward from rivers to the south,
and
different conditions during the Pleistocene brought the sand northward in a littoral drift pattern, and then onshore winds later and a lowered sea elevation made it possible for a lot of the sand to be blown inland. And so the oldest members of the dunes are from the Pleistocene and maybe as old as about 70,000 years, and the youngest parts, and we are on a Holocene part, which is more like 3,000 years old. Okay, here's a map of the Oregon Dunes Trail, and we're up at the overlook right now, and my assistant is pointing to the areas, and we're going to be taking the Dunes Trail to the south to Taconich Creek. So we're actually going to be going above the trail in the dunes, and we're going to go all the way to the ocean and then back again today.
Here we are at the very top of the dunes, and we're looking south towards our route. We're going along the crest of the dunes as much as possible. There's a little place to go through in the middle of the frame there.
We're about to go through that little pass that I showed you in the last clip, and we're looking at the bowl of sand beneath this high dune that where we started the trip, and you can see various layers of sand from the erosion that has occurred in this bowl. We've gone through
The forested pass area. We're looking back to the high dune that we started on and
going through the sweep of the view to the south, where we're going to be climbing up onto this interesting dune, which is very active.
We are now located on the back side of our favorite dune, and we can see some layering that has been etched by the wind on the back side or the windward side. And then we can walk over here to the lee side and see what awaits us. There isn't too much of a drop-off like on the high dunes in the John Delleback Trail, but there is quite a lot of wind sculpturing, so let's go forward and take a look at some of that. Here's a shot further west on the same dune, and as we walk along, the shadows are just perfect for seeing some of the layering, and you can see the extent of the sculpturing as we travel down here. I have to be careful that I'm not stepping in the troughs of the sculptures. It's sculptured all the way down to the back side of this dune. We got Miss Lucy in the frame for scale. We've made it all the way to Taconich Creek, and where we're standing, we're not too far above the creek, but the dune is quite high and steep in some places. There's some interesting patterns in the sediments on the bank of the creek, and here is some images of those. We're sitting here after having enjoyed a delicious lunch along Taconich Creek, and we're doing a little bit of reminiscing about all the times we have been down here. I used to have 2 Australian Shepherds, Lucy and Trinity, and they, even at the really high overlook areas, you can kind of see one in the distance there, they would fly down the hill to the creek, get a drink of water, and run back up the hill. It was really steep, and we would all be so impressed by their agility. The last time we came to Taconich Creek, we were on the other side of the creek on a different hike called Taconich Creek Trail, and that's a more low-lying trail. The water in the low-lying areas was pretty significant, and we had to take our shoes off to get through some areas. And during all this time, there were a lot of frogs croaking, and so we have renamed that hike the Frog Hike. Here's what Taconich Creek looks just over the hill from where we were before, and you can see in the distance there the trail markers and how high the banks are in some places. You can see the Oxbow Bend in Taconich Creek is nearly complete, and before long the creek will be cutting through at the point further up. I don't know whether you can see it very clearly, but through the tree there below where the breakers are, you can see some water, and that would be standing water in the deflation plain. In this southerly trail to the ocean, they built a little boardwalk here to get you over the worst of the possible flooding. Almost to the ocean now, and we've had a report from hikers coming the other way that the forest and deflation plain on the loop path is just fine. There's no flooding, so it's been about a week since we had a heavy rain. So we're going to go back that way. Here we are at the top of the foredune. There's a warning sign about things to be careful for. Here's the deflation plain on the east side of the foredune, and we'll cross over to look on the beach side of the foredune, heading north. We're proceeding down the beach, and it is quite a windy day. Still walking on the beach, but we notice an interesting phenomenon here with the sea foam. Can you tell what direction the wind is coming from? There's a lot of sea jellies on the beach today, and I'll show you a couple ones. Here's a very interesting looking one. We're coming up on an area where the foredune does not have any
grass growing on it, and I think this may be the area that they bulldoze for the snowy plover or breeding habitat. We'll check this out. I've leashed up Lucy and we're coming up here to just check out this flattened area. And this is what the habitat they've created for the snowy plovers looks like in the winter. They are not breeding right now. We've gone a bit further north, and along this area there's been quite a bit of erosion along the beach this winter. Another big sneaker wave. We're having lots of fun running from them here on the beach. We're a little bit farther north than the snowy plover breeding area. It's a little hard to speak because my lips are cold. Okay, we've arrived at the trailhead to go back up the hill, but there's a bit of a cliff, so we're either going to have to go around or climb up the cliff. This occurs a lot at the coast. So we made it up the little cliff there, and here's where we are. There's another sign talking about the snowy plovers, and also a map of the hike, and we're approximately here on the hike. Here's a good clip of what the deflation plain flooding looks like in the winter. Fortunately, the trail is up a little higher, so we're not having to contend with all this flooding. Okay, the trail pops us out up here above the little forest, and we have a little bit of a climb to get back up to the overlook. But fortunately, the steepest part, we will cut left into the forest and go up the trail up a couple of switchbacks. Here we are on the trail going up the hill, and you can see quite a good prospect from here of the dunes area.